Students, almost 20 days back, we started our second chapter, Sectors of Indian Economy. But in between, we took a break as our period was needed by other teachers for the completion of your syllabus. So, to bring back your understanding of the chapter, rather than proceeding, I thought to summarize once whatever has been done so far. So I'm going to brief the chapter before taking new points. I hope it will help to most of the people, those who have not attended earlier lectures. So students, we have our chapter Sectors of Indian Economy. Now in Sectors of Indian Economy, we have discussed about the economic activities. Economic activities, we have further three sectors which are producing all the jobs. So all the jobs come under these three sectors, and these three sectors are primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. Now what is primary sector? In primary sector, we produce a good by exploiting natural resources, means the work which is associated with the nature, agriculture, animals, fishing, gardening, mining. It is all under the primary sector, and we also called it agriculture and related sector. For example, students, sugarcane, wheat and cotton, these are the products which are produced in the primary sector, and later on we will see how they are useful for the secondary sector. So let us talk about the secondary sector. Secondary sector covers activities in which natural products are changed into a form through ways of manufacturing. So in short, in this, natural products are converted into other products through manufacturing. For example, we have taken cotton in primary sector. When the cotton is grown, then it comes in primary sector. But when it is ready, then what we do with this cotton? Clothes are made with this cotton. And similarly, we get sugarcane in primary sector. And what we do in secondary sector with the sugarcane? We make jaggery from it. And we get wheat also in the primary sector, but ultimately we use wheat in producing so many other objects such as biscuits, right? So this is the work in the secondary sector. So whatever was available in primary sector, with the other modifications, the product is converted in other things. So since it is next step of primary, so we call it secondary step. It is also known as industrial sector because processing takes place in factories or industries. So this is about the secondary sector. Now your third sector, the most important sector for today, is called tertiary sector. Students, all other jobs, whatever we have done in primary sector and secondary sector, leaving all that, whatever is left, whatever the job is left, all other jobs come under this tertiary sector. Remember, this sector only generates services. What does it mean? It itself does not manufacture anything. For example, in primary sector, sugar is created with the help of means sugar cane is produced, and secondary sector created jaggery from the sugar cane. But third sector is not creating anything, it only generates jobs, it only generates services. It is a support system for both primary sector. Why? Because now, what was the job of the primary sector? To produce something by exploiting natural resources. And what was the job of the secondary sector? Whatever is produced by the primary or the agriculture, to convert all those things into other products. For example, again and again I'm taking, cotton is produced by the primary sector. From the cotton, cloth is converted by the secondary sector. Now what has been produced by these sectors, what we will do with these? Naturally it needs to reach to the other people or places for whom these things are made. So that support system is given by tertiary sector. For example, when cotton is produced and converted in clothes, now what to do with this cloth? It has to reach to the people. How it would reach to the people? By using the transport. It will use the transport to reach to the shops, malls, and other places. So in this way it has created all the other services. So all the sectors which are producing services is called the tertiary sector. Since it is providing services, so it is also called service sector. Your students, these days most important sector has become tertiary sector. Now, since we have seen there are three main sectors, let us talk about how these sectors are interdependent on each other. Can you imagine that any sector is independent? Primary sector can do anything alone, secondary sector can do anything alone, or tertiary sector can do anything alone? No, students, it is not possible. Before I give you example which already we have covered, let us talk about one question related to your science. From your childhood you have done food chain. What is in the food chain? That grass is grown, then deer is there, and tiger is there. How these three are interconnected? Let it be, grass is your primary sector, deer is your secondary sector, and finally tiger is your tertiary sector. Just remove grass from in between. What will happen? Deer will not get the food, deer will die, and when deer will die, who will not get the food? Tiger will not get the food, and finally tiger will die. And what will be the use of the grass? Grass is also useless because its use is not taken by anyone. So ultimately all these three things are interconnected. They are not individually independent, they need support of each other. Same is the case with these sectors, primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. So I don't think I need to go with all these examples again. When one, suppose I will take one example only. Suppose sugar mill is there and it is not ready. This farmer is not ready to give this sugar cane to one mill. The mill will not get the sugar cane, so naturally the mill will not be able to produce the jaggery or the other objects which are to be produced by the sugar cane. The mill will stop. Because of that, the service sector will also ultimately get suffer, because the services will not be provided by the secondary sector. So in this way all these sectors are interconnected. You want, I can explain them also, no problems. Okay. Imagine what would happen if farmers refuse to sell sugar cane to a particular sugar mill. The mill will have to shut, and what will be the conclusion? It shows dependence of secondary sector on the primary sector, as factories will need sugar cane to make sugar, but since they are not getting sugar cane from the farmers which are from the primary sector, definitely the production unit will stop. It shows how secondary sector is dependent upon primary sector. Let us talk about the last comparison. Now we know that we all need food. All the people working in industrial and service sector need food. Imagine what would happen if there is a strike. Transporters and lorries refuse to take vegetable milk at a certain area, from a certain area to the rural areas. So what will become, what will happen? the food will become scarce in urban areas and farmers will be unable to sell their produce. Means one where food is needed, one where the food is wasted because it is not used. So in short, food will be wasted. What it shows, it shows how both first and second sectors, how both first and second, that is primary and secondary sector, depend upon tertiary sector. So now let us compare these three sectors. Now students, we know that all the three sectors are interconnected, right? Now how we will get that which sector is doing the best job? This we can do by finding the GDP. Now how to find the GDP? You know what is GDP? This you have already done in your ninth class also. No problems, we can do it once again. So what is GDP? It is gross domestic product, sum of all goods and services produced in a country in an accounting year is called GDP, right? So, since we have various products, activities in the primary sector and tertiary sector produced a very large number of services, these three sectors have a large number of people working in them to produce these goods and services. Now, therefore, to see how much goods are produced and how many people are working in each sector, in a sector, in an economy, there could be one more sector which dominant in terms of total production and employment, and other sectors are relatively small in size. So how this we can get? By calculating the GDP of any country, we can see which sector is dominating or which sector is contributing more and which sector's contribution is very small in size. So every good and service has a value. Calculating the value of all goods and services in a sector can be used to compare the three sectors. I have taught this with an example. Let us recall this example. Uh, how to measure GDP? I gave you an example of a farmer. Since we know that our primary sector is also called agriculture, naturally again and again we have to talk about the farmers. So a farmer grows a wheat or the wheat and he sells it at rupees 8. And now the same wheat is purchased by a trader. He grinds it and makes it flour and sells it at rupees 10 kg. So he purchased it in 8 rupees and sells it in 10 rupees. That means the 2 rupees amount you can say. In this, he has included the service he has provided to convert it into flour and also the benefit that he wants to earn by selling this product. So 2 rupees he has taken as his expenditure also and as his income also, right? Now this float which was sold by a farmer in a grinder trader in 10 rupees, now it is taken by a manufacturer. A manufacturing unit adds sugar and other things to make cookies and sells at rupees 60 kg. When it is selling it in 60 rupees, naturally it has to include its all the services. How the flour was converted into biscuits, it needs maybe electricity, maybe it needs other products to be added, like this milk is added, ghee is added, coconut powder is added, sugar is added, so many things are added, and people are also involved in working or making cookies, right? So all these services, and after that he has to convert the cookies, he has to pack in the packets, and afterwards packets should reach to the market also, so transportation is also needed. A person who will finally take it to the shop and give it to the other customers, that salesperson's income is also needed. So all this will be taken as 60 rupees per kg. What was begin from 8 rupees now finally ends with the 60 rupees, right beta? So how to get this GDP? Do we add 8 plus 10 plus 60. In this way, how much it will become? 60 plus 10, 78. No, this is not the way, because in this way we are adding same services again and again. Once farmer has already charged its 8 rupees to produce this uh, wheat, again if we will add this, then what was the use of taking all those 8 rupees, and finally trader when it bought, and finally trader is also taking 2 rupees, and afterwards it has become 60 rupees kilo kg, 60 rupees kilo cookies. That means this manufacturer has also included all the services. If he has bought it in 10 rupees, 10 rupee person has already taken 2 rupees benefit, and now 60 rupees person has also taken the benefit of those rupees which he has paid, 10 rupees. So in short, all the amount finally it is converted into 60 rupees. So we only include the value of final goods and services, that is rupees 60. So the value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year provides the total production of the sector for that year. You remember I told who has to work on this GDP, who has to find out this GDP. You remember students, I told at that time also, remember or not? So this is very important question, students. Who calculates a GDP? GDP is undertaken by the central government with the help of various government departments. For example, our states and UTs, union territories. All they make main pay main part. Of course, the main part is played by the central government, but they all also have to help the central government in funding the GDP of any country. Fine. So this is a way how to get the GDP. I hope it is clear to you all. Now students, there is a historical change in sectors. We have seen that all the sectors are important. Primary sector is important, secondary sector is important, and tertiary sector is important. But you know, there is something very important to discuss, that there is a historical change in all these three sectors. Now what is this change? Primary sector was the most important sector of economic activities at the time of initial stage of development in developed countries. We know everyone is working in the field. Initially, if we talk, the main work of the people was to work in the fields. So this was the main job done by the people. And now naturally, when the people are working in the fields, whatever the food is produced, it was in more than needed quantity, more than sufficient quantity. So it included that people started moving towards the factories. So with the arrival of new methods of manufacturing, secondary sector gradually became the most important in total production and employment. Because when all these food items increased, or the things which are needed are in more than needed, so naturally people started thinking of other work. Suppose if one earlier, you know, there was a barter system. It was not that people will be purchasing something and getting money, but earlier it was a barter system. If so much, you know, food is produced, grain is produced, and the people who have to take it in return of other services, even then his food or his grain is wasted because it is no more needed. So this became the main reason that the people started shifting in the industries or in the factories, right? So this is the main reason that secondary sector became important, because agriculture was not providing them sufficient income. So about the food, it was like machines are increased, way of agriculture improved, tools, technology. So the people started moving towards factories in this way, and secondary sector increased. But if we talk about today's status, in the past 100 years, there has been a shift from secondary sector to tertiary sector in developing countries. The service sector has become the most important in terms of total production. There is a boom because income of people increased, and because of the income of the people, growth of secondary sector increased, and because the growth of the secondary sector increased and income increased, people, you means you can say the capacity of spending also increased. And naturally people started, using good education, they started spending more on their luxurious and other things. For example, earlier people were just stuck to their home products, whatever is cooked in the houses by moms, only that was used. But now when spending capacity increased in the people, they started spending on other things. For example, now we need, pizzas, burgers, and we are not satisfied with one or two pairs of clothes. We need clothes for all the seasons. So all this reason finally became the main reason that the tertiary sector became the most important. This can be seen through the this graph also. What is the role of the GDP by the all these three sectors? Students, you all can see this graph. There are 2 years basically taken, 1973 and 74, and another graph is taken of 2013 and 14. So I think you can see what is clearly shown in these two graphs. There was a drastic change in both the graphs. In 1973 and 74, you can see that basic role is given by the primary sector, which is shown with the blue shade, right? And tertiary sector was also good, but secondary sector's role was very less, or you can say the minimum role which was contributed in the GDP of the country was by the secondary sector. But just see how surprisingly this data is changed in 2013 and 14. See, means now the whole area is shown in tertiary sector. Can you see this? How difference is shown? Primary sector is now on minimum, and secondary sector after the primary, and finally the most important contribution or the maximum contribution is paid by the tertiary sector. Right students? So in this way we have got how tertiary sector has become the most important in paying the GDP of the country. I had given you one exercise related to this topic. I remember hardly 5 to 7 students, I think, gave me answers of those questions. I would like to repeat these questions. They're in your books. I think you all have your books. Box is given. Answer the following questions by looking at the graph. So I have already discussed graph with you. I think it is very easy for you to answer me now. Answer the following questions by looking at the graph. Which was the largest producing sector in 1973-74? It is very, very much transparent. We need not to even think that primary sector was the main sector which was producing the largest production, right? And then which is the largest producing sector in 2013 and 14? This is also very much clear. Tertiary sector. Can you say which sector has grown the most over 40 years? Now, can you say secondary sector has grown most? Can you say primary sector has grown most? No, because we can see the size of graph in which tertiary sector is shown. So it shows clearly that it is tertiary sector which has grown the most over 40 years. So what was the GDP of India in 2013 and 14? If we have if we will count the GDP of primary, secondary and tertiary sector, that means the sum of primary, secondary and tertiary sector, then we will get the GDP. So in 2013-14, how much it was? This you will tell me after the chapter will be over, and this time I really want you all to answer me. Okay students, so now let us move on the next point. Now, what is the importance of the tertiary sector? Students, there are basically 5 reasons that has actually made this tertiary sector so important. I think in this slide I have taken only 3 sectors, but actually it has 5 reasons that why the tertiary sector has increased or became so important. Let us talk about it one by one. So for any developing nation, basic services such as education, hospitals, courts are necessary, and government has to take responsibility for the provision of these services. So there were 5 reasons. Government has developed hospitals, schools and army, courts, everything. So they are a part of tertiary sector. That's why it became important. The development of primary and secondary sector will need services like trade, transportation and storage. How, if suppose anything is grown and ultimately converted in the secondary sector, now since it has increased, it needs to be traded. For the trade, transportation is needed and the surplus has to be stored. So all this has given the services, all these trade, service, transportation and storage, all this has produced services, hence service sector will increase side by side. Then comes, all the income level rises, certain sections of people start demanding services like shopping, tourism, etc. Now you people only see, when we were children we hardly have to go somewhere, like only, I think if I remember, we used to go to the religious places only. Sometimes we were going to the Vaishno Devi, sometimes we were going to Haridwar. But now the scenario is totally changed. According to the weather, according to the season, we plan our vacation. If it is a winter break, we will go to Jaipur, if we or some other places. If it is a summer, we will go to the hill stations. And not only in India, we are going even outside from the India. Somebody is going to the Switzerland, Europe and all that. So in this way the services, because the people have increased their capacity to spend, so they have demanded more services. Now we are not satisfied what is available in our local market. If we need to buy some clothes, it is our birthday and we are not going to buy something which is available in our next shop in the market. No, if we are in Sangrur, we will go to Patiala. If we are in Patiala, we will go to Chandigarh. If we are in Chandigarh, we will go to Delhi. So in this way, this all has increased the tertiary sector, right? Over past decades, information and technology has grown drastically. Now this, I think, something is, I don't need to tell you how it has increased. Today I am holding phone in my hand to teach you people, and you all are also listening me with the help of this information and technology, internet services. The people who are working in all these companies, all this has increased the tertiary sector. And finally, the fifth point, which is not mentioned here, beta, please you note now, green revolution in India also gave boost to tertiary sector by developing of services such as transport, storage and everything. This naturally, because of the green revolution, everything started. If we started getting more food than needed, then it is all because of the green revolution. Green revolution basically became the reason of, you can say, rise of tertiary sector. So let us compare once the shares of the sectors in GDP and shares of the sectors in employment. This is also something very important to talk, students. If we talk about the shares in 1973-74, main contribution was of course by the this tertiary sector, but primary sector was also contributing quite good. Of course, secondary sector was not able to produce much a share in GDP, but primary and tertiary sector were almost at par, right? So primary sector was producing, let it be 49%, and secondary sector 24%, and tertiary sector 27%, right students? So this was the contribution. But now there is a surprising fact if we talk about the year 2013 and 14. Now the role is totally totally opposite. Primary sector is only contributing 15%. Maximum people are under the primary sector working, and even then they are producing the minimum. 49% we have seen people are working in the this primary sector. 49%, that means almost half percentage of the country, 50% of the country, right? But still they are not able to produce much GDP. They are only giving 15% share. And secondary sector, that is 27%, has little increased. Now just see the drastic change in the data of tertiary sector, 58%. Now why this difference has come? Here also you can see share of sectors in employment. When primary, this is the basic reason why this GDP is all showing. Beta, if you see the graph in 1972-73, the main contribution in the employment is by the primary sector, that I have already discussed. 74% are working in the primary sector, and in secondary only 11, and tertiary only 50. So this is the condition. But in 2011-12, primary sector still is on 49, secondary sector on 24, and tertiary sector has of course increased on 27%. No doubt there is a hike, but the hike that we can see is showing something very weird. Primary sector has appointed so many people, but still it is contributing very less of GDP. This is shocking. So why this difference? Because there are many reasons. The reason behind this is because tertiary sector requires educated and skilled people, whereas the agriculture can have anyone. There is no skill is required. So this actually contributes the unemployment, which is in the form of disguise. This is called underemployed or disguised employed. How beta this has become the reason? Now I will tell you with an example. Just an example. Point is, where all these people are working, if they all are working in the fields, if they all are working in the agriculture, why the GDP is so less? The reason is underemployed or disguised employment. How beta? Suppose there is a family of the farmers in village, and there are 10 people in that family, and all the 10 people are not going to any other workplace. They all are engaged in that crop work. Now, since all the 10 people are available, so they all have distributed or divided their work, whereas the same work actually could be done by the 6 people also. But since it is their own job and they have no other work to do, so they thought just to work in the same field. So they just plan, but at the same time, need is only of 6 people. That means the production which will be gained by the same field will be obviously according to the 6 people. So these 4 people who are extra employed there, they are called disguised employment. When more than needed people are working in agriculture, then it is called disguised employment. Now, because of this, labor also gets divided. Same work can be done by the 6 people, but since 10 people are working, it is dividing their labor also. And other reason behind this disguised employment is there are very less opportunities given by the government to people, right? So what happens now? Let me give you, this is not only in agriculture. This disguised employment is not only in agriculture. This is very common in tertiary sector also, but we generally do not notice how this is in tertiary sector. Take an example. There is a society where almost all the service class people are living. In that, a barber opens a shop, right? One barber is working there, and all the people who needs the services of that barber, haircut and trimming and all that, they all are approaching to that barber, and he is doing his job nicely. Everyone is satisfied, everyone is getting time, everything is going properly. Now another barber thinks of opening shop in the same society. So earlier one barber was working, now another barber has come, and within the no time, third barber also comes. Let it be means in the same society where only one barber was working, now the 3 barbers have opened their shop. Now what will happen? The people who were going to the first barber only, from whom they were getting services first, since they know that they have other 2 barbers also, so some of them will start shifting to the second barber, and some of them will start shifting to the third barber. Now the societies of the same people, number of people are still same, but their number of barbers have increased. That means the people first, whatever the income they were giving to the first barber, or the first barber, whatever he was earning from the whole society, now his income is divided among other two also, other 2 barbers. Because naturally in society, how many people will increase? Suppose the children are taking birth, at the same time people are dying also, so number of people will almost the same. And when the same, suppose there were 500 people or 200 people, 200 people were giving services to the one barber, now 200 people are giving services to the 3 barbers. So that means how much percentage it will come? Almost you can say 70 people, right? So what was earned by one barber from the 200 people, now he is able to earn only from the 70 people. So this is also called disguised employment. So students, for today this is all about. In our next lecture we will talk about how to create more employment. But before I'll start, this is your task. I request you not to search on Google, not to read your chapter from the book, but think by your own what government can do to increase or create the employment, so that this problem of underemployment or disguised unemployment should be removed. Okay students, I request you again, you all are brainy, you all are creative, please do not Google all the time. People were studying when Google was not existing, so please try not to take help all the time from Google. Even do not consult your book, because ultimately you will get idea. I want you to think with your own brain how you can create more employment. Okay, Thank you so much, students. Take care. Now we can discuss about the doubts. Thank you.